The Boston Bruins just shocked everybody as they just did something that we have not seen in such a long time. We're going to be breaking it down here, going over not just what this means for the present, but what this means going forward in the season for Marco Sturm to set this team apart. We're going to be breaking it down as well as going over some very interesting players, which have set some very interesting expectations for this upcoming season. We have a lot to break down today, ladies and gentlemen, and before we do jump into it, I ask you one favor, and that's if you haven't hit the sub button, be sure to do so. We're bringing you all of your Boston Bruins news, and we have a lot to cover here. Not just this video, but for training camp, the preseason, and also heading into the regular season. You won't want to miss it. We're going to have it here, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But let's go straight into this video, because obviously last night against the New York Rangers was something that we have not seen in such a long time, and I'm just going to pull this up right now. Leave it up here, take a look, let it breathe. Let's get into this. Now, 3 goals in the third period and then 1 in overtime. Going into not just this game, but seeing how things played out for this game, how things translated from the beginning of the game to later in the game, which ultimately led to this comeback. This is something that not just the Bruins have done, but Marco Sturm has been a big part of this. And we saw this as well in last game, that once teams start to, kind of get used to Marco Sturm a bit, and right now, of course, starting out games a little bit slow, had a bit of a different roster here in this game compared to the first. You see the transition throughout the game of how Marco Sturm's game really comes in to this Bruins team, and I feel like the way that this game ended with 3 goals in the third period, Nikita Zadorov getting the overtime goal and canning it straight to the dressing room, absolutely is setting this team in a very good direction. And at least I can say this, I didn't expect this game to be like this when we were down 4-1 in the third period, or in the second period, going into the third period. I thought the game was over. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't very optimistic, but when we go into it, and I mean, you're taking a look here at like this, what an absolute baller play by Nikita Zadorov, first of all. My assumption is that he was completely gassed. I believe he was out there around 2 minutes in that overtime period before scoring, but straight to the locker room was an absolute power move by him here. And of course, he's been a big part of this season, but into the game as well. And I mean, as we're going through it, you take a look at the goal scorers here, and we have something to touch on here, because obviously there's some names here that usually we don't really see. First of all, Nikita Zadorov, of course, the overtime goal. Not the greatest goal, but nonetheless, it was in the back of the net, results in the Bruins win. That's all you can ask for, and that's the type of wins the Bruins are going to need to get quite a bit this season. But starting off with Matej Blumel, very, very nice feed from Casey Mittelstadt, first of all, and Matej Blumel being their back door, popping that straight in. Beautiful play. I think it's a lot to do with Casey Mittelstadt there, and that's a very good start for him. But as you went into it, of course, going to the second period, the Rangers came back. They got quite a few, ultimately leading to the third period with the Bruins. And Mikey Eyssimont came back with, first of all, 2 goals coming there with Marat Huznatinov, then heading into overtime. This is a very good showing and a very promising showing. Now, Mikey Eyssimont in this game was an absolute animal. And I can't show the clips here, unfortunately, but starting off the first period, letting a massive body there in the circle, phenomenal hit. That's the guy that we need, and that's what his role really has been. And, remember when we go back and sign Mikey Eyssimont here in free agency, he was a guy that we were going to come in and, not have him really going to be the known offensive guy, but he shoots the puck. He is a very, very sneaky, quick player, and he's also does not mind throwing the body, and we saw every single bit of that in last night's game. Now, going back as well to it, I mean, I feel like I'm keep on pulling this up, but having those 2 goals, very good sign. Having an assist as well here, he was a really big part of this reason for the comeback. Him, Marat Huznatinov, Casey Mittelstadt, everybody that was on the score sheet here tonight really had an impact on this game. And continuing on with that, one thing that we can't forget is Joonas Korpisalo. Even though it is a .892 save percentage, he played good in this game. 33 saves on 37 shots against a New York Rangers team who, although didn't have their full lineup, they saw a lot of good talent and a lot of younger players that we're going to see over the next few years as regulars on this team were in that lineup last night. So this is something that, although not probably the best save percentage, I'm completely fine having Joonas Korpisalo come out here, and the offense did the help for Joonas Korpisalo. They gave him what they needed. They got the goals in the third period, ultimately coming back and really set this team on a kind of a different mindset, at least for this preseason right now, because as we know, as Marco Sturm has said, as everybody has said, that this team, we're not going to be a playoff team. I'm kind of probably the anomaly. I keep on saying, hey, this team could be a playoff team, but that's for a later date. You guys have it written down. You guys know to call me out if I'm wrong, and, probably tease me on that side. But going into this game and, coming out of the preseason, if you have games like this, wins like this, and you see this team come back in games like this, you're going to have a different mindset going into the regular season, into, let's just say, the Christmas break, into the trade deadline, and ultimately into the playoffs. And that could translate well. So hopefully this is what we're seeing on this mindset. But Marco Sturm was not really, too afraid to say what happened here in tonight's game and say, kind of just throw it out there. He said, it's nice to see him get rewarded. He works extremely hard. Guys like him you always root for because he cares and because he has not just grit, but skill. That's something you welcome. And this was about Mikey Eyssimont on his game as well. And he's been the big part of this game just for, at least right now, from what we're seeing. And we see this right now in one game. I'm excited to see what he can do going forward. I mean, this is obviously a very early part of the season. Lots of changes can still come. And, keep and remember the fourth line last year with the Bruins. They were a line that got the energy going and was really the only line present for the first quarter of the season. So a guy like Mikey Eyssimont, although he may not be a top player on this team, he will have quite a bit of importance and a significant importance here on this team right now and going forward. And this is just the beginning of that. And I feel like if the Bruins have more players like this could be a very different but better looking team than what we currently are looking at right now. But going into it as well, we saw a different lineup for the third period. Marat Huzantinov, Casey Middlestat, Matej Blumel, Mikey Eyssimont, Fraser Minton, Fabian Lysell. Of course, the other lines there, but I really wanted to highlight those two as, even though this was a shift for the third period, these lines were very interesting to look at. And I would be curious to see if Marco Sturm does continue to explore with these types of patterns, because as we know, the bottom six right now is not really locked down. I think there's a lot of open places, a lot of open spots, and there's a lot of people trying out for this team that, we don't really know who's going to be there. But looking at this lineup right now, I would argue that this is some of the more important players to be fighting for this spot down in the bottom six, at least on opening night and opening roster. Things are going to be changing throughout the season. We know that. We're expecting that. But as of right now, if they can find a pairing that lasts, we continue to run with that. But this season's going to be a very interesting one, a very different one, and we do have a few more quotes to come into as well. And Nikita Zadorov had this to say: this game could have gone garbage real quick if he didn't make those saves. Korpisalo stayed big for us and gave us a chance to get back in the game. So, once again, Nikita Zadorov, an absolute kind of different guy, a guy that you want to have in the locker room. We've had a lot of players on this team before be vocal, but Nikita Zadorov, at least for the past year that he's been on this team, has been someone that is taking such a big leadership role. And I applaud him for that because obviously he is a fun player. He's a guy that, I got a lot of hate early last season due to him being on too much money, whatnot. But at the end of the season, coming into the highest plus minus in the league, or in the Bruins at least, and also going into finding his game at the end of the year with Henri Jokiharju, he's been a guy that has not just been fun to play on this lineup, but is also someone that a lot of these younger players, a lot of the players on the Bruins are falling back on with his leadership, his style of play, and he's someone that, yes, does take a long time, or not a long time, but a little bit longer than other players to kind of get going, but he's a fun player. He's a very good guy to kind of see here on the ice. But a few more things before we do finish this video off. The Bruins trolling the preseason by blasting Empire State of Mind in the locker room. Once again, absolute sweet play by Nikita Zadorov here as well, coming off the ice, then doing that. This team is having fun. That's something I think we need to get going once again this year, and something that will really set this team apart, so that, not just aid in this team's kind of development of the younger players and get back off a bad year, but starting out this way, continuing this way, very good things to see. But before we do finish this video off, Mikey Eyssimont came out. He had some stuff to say as well. So hopefully it just shows that we fight until the end and see games all the way through. We fixed a lot of things, and that's a sign of a mature team. Mikey Eyssimont coming out and saying this also means a lot to the Bruins by being one of the newer players, but taking that leadership role as he is now kind of, among some of the older players on this team. Crazy enough considering where we were last year, but nonetheless, you're a new player. You have a role to play. He knows what he's doing, and he's got some, pretty hefty, experience on this team, and it's going to be playing a lot into the Bruins' future. So that's all I got here in this video. Great sign of the game against the Rangers, but that's not all. We have a lot more to come. We're going to have it here on the channel, but that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.